Hello everyone. So this week you will be reviewing how to solve multi-step inequalities. And if you remember from last year, solving multi-step inequalities is almost identical to solving equations. You follow the exact same steps, but there's one very important difference. Anytime you'd multiply or divide both sides of inequality by a negative number, you must remember to flip the inequality sign. So anytime you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality sign. So here are some examples of inequalities, okay, that I will quickly solve just to refresh your memory. So the first one says x plus 5 is greater than 6. Okay, our goal is to isolate the x, so we have to get rid of this 5. So since it's being added, we're going to do the inverse operation. We are going to subtract 5 from both sides. Okay, 6 minus 5 is 1. These two 5s will cancel, and x is greater than 1. Notice we didn't have to flip the inequality sign because we didn't divide or multiply by a negative number. So our final answer is just x greater than 1. In the second inequality, in the second example, we have negative 3x is less than or equal to 12. We have to divide both sides by this negative 3 because we want to get x alone. And since opposite of multiplication is division, we're going to divide. Okay, so the two 3's, negative 3's will cancel because that's just equal to 1. So we're left with x. 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. But because we're divided by a negative sign, negative number, we have to flip the inequality sign. So instead of less than or equal to, we are going to use greater than or equal to. So notice this sign has flipped. We reverse the sign because we divided by a negative number. Okay? In example 3, x is on the right side, but we found the exact same steps. We want to get x alone, so we need to get rid of this 2. So we are going to subtract 2 from both sides, like this. 8 minus 2 is 6. Okay, greater than x. Now, I personally always ask my students to write the answer so that the variable is on the left-hand side because it's easier to graph, and also it just makes more sense when asking a question, what is x, right? If I ask you what is x, you want to answer x is greater than or x is less than some number instead of saying 6 is greater than x. So what we're going to do in this case is we are going to flip the entire inequality. And if you flip the entire inequality, then you also have to flip the sign. Okay, so just like this. So this was greater than, it becomes less than. So 6 greater than x means the same thing as x is less than 6. Okay, so now let's look at actual examples from my Excel. So the first one, I am going to copy this inequality on the side, and I really recommend that when you solve these inequalities, you actually do it on a piece of paper because it's really difficult to do these in your head. So I have z over negative 10 is plus 3 is greater than 4. So again, we want to isolate the z. We want to first get rid of all the constants. So we're going to get rid of this 3 by subtracting 3 from both sides. Okay, so this gives us z over negative 10, the 3's cancel, is greater than 4 minus 3 is 1. Okay, and now we want to get rid of this denominator. Remember, the fraction bar means division. Opposite of division is multiplication. So we will multiply both sides by negative 10. Okay. So since we are multiplying by a negative number, these two will cancel. 1 times negative 10 is negative 10. Because we're multiplying by a negative number, we have to reverse the inequality sign. So this greater than becomes less than. Okay, so that's the answer to this problem. Okay, so once again, because we divided, we multiplied by a negative 10, this inequality sign flipped. Okay, another example. Again, I'm going to copy it. So we have negative 4 is greater than 2 minus negative 2j. I hope you guys remember immediately that if you have two negatives next to each other, two negatives next to each other make a plus. So I'm going to rewrite this as negative 4 is greater than 2 plus 2j. Okay, so two negatives make a plus, okay, next to each other, just awkward seeing two negatives. So again, we want to isolate the variable. So first we're going to get rid of the constant. So we're going to subtract the 2 from both sides. Negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6. This has to be greater than 2j. Okay, we want to get j alone, so we want to get rid of this 2. So since this is 2 times j, we're going to divide both sides by 2 to undo it. So negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, is greater than j. And again, I like to have my variable on the left side, so I'm going to flip the entire inequality. So I'm going to get j to the left side and negative 3 to the right side. And since I've reversed inequality, I also have to reverse the sign. So the answer is j is less than negative 3. Okay? One more example. This one is a little bit more complicated because it has parentheses in it. I'm sure you guys will have no problem solving this. Okay, so remember when we have parentheses, the first thing we want to do is distribute. So I'm going to multiply. Negative 2 times v is negative 2v. Negative 2 times negative 11 is positive 22. Okay, and then we copy the rest of inequality with no changes. Okay, notice now we have two constants on the same side of the equality sign. So we are going to combine like terms. So negative 2v, 22 minus 5 is 17. Okay, and now this looks a lot more like regular two-step inequality. We're going to get rid of the 17. So we're going to subtract 17 from both sides. And this gives us that negative 2v is greater than or equal to negative 20. Finally, we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. And again, we are dividing by a negative number, which means we must flip the inequality sign. So negative 20 divided by negative 2 is positive 10. So the answer is v is less than or equal to 10. Okay, so this is how we solve inequalities. Now we're going to take a look at the second IXL you guys need to complete this week. And this one has to do with graphing. So before we graph it, we also have to solve inequalities. Okay, so I'm going to copy the first one. So we have v over 2 plus 1 is greater than negative 1. So again, we want to get the variable alone. We're going to get rid of this plus 1 first. Okay, remember division should always, or multiplication should always be done at the end. So always first get rid of the constants. So we have v over 2 is greater than negative 2. Then we are going to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of this denominator. And this gives us that v is greater than negative 4. Okay, so now we are ready to graph our solution because we solved the inequality. Okay, so step 1, always draw a circle at your number. So negative 4, we're going to draw the circle. Okay, if you don't have the equal as a part of inequality, so if you have just greater than or less than, then we use open circle to show that the number is not a part of the solution. Okay, so I'm going to leave my circle unfilled. And then you can, if your inequality is written in this way, okay, then you can use the inequality symbol as an arrowhead. This inequality points to the right, so I know that my solution is going to be to the right. Okay, and if you're not sure, always think, what does this inequality tell us? It tells us that we're looking for numbers that are greater than negative 4. And all the numbers that are greater than negative 4 are to the right of negative 4 on the number line. Okay, let's look at example 2. Okay, so we have negative 4 is greater than or equal to g over 2 minus 6. So two-step inequality. First, we're going to get rid of the 6. So we're going to add 6 to both sides. And this gives us 2 is greater than or equal to greater than or equal to g over 2. I'm going to get rid of this denominator, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. And we get that 4 is greater than or equal to g. Okay, and again, I don't like having the variable on the right, so we are going to flip the entire inequality, and this tells us that g is less than or equal to 4. So I'm going to copy this on our problem. So g is less than or equal to 4. Okay, since we're going to draw the circle at 4, since we have the equal sign, we know that 4 is the part of the solution, so we're going to fill in the circle. And we're looking for numbers that are less than 4, okay? So smaller numbers are to the left, so we're going to go this way. And also, if you look at the inequality symbol, right, it points to the left, okay? Now, you can only look at the inequality symbol to figure out the direction if your variable is on the left-hand side. Okay, so let's look at another problem. We have 4g minus 1 is greater than equal to 8. Okay, there's two different ways you can solve this. You can either divide both sides by 4, or you can distribute. I'm going to distribute. 4 times g is 4g. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Okay, greater than or equal to 8. Then we want to get rid of this 4, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to add 4 to both sides. And we have that 4g is greater than or equal to 12. Then we're going to divide both sides by 4. And we get that g is greater than or equal to 3. So I'm going to copy this on our screen. Okay, so again, we're going to start with this 3. Because we have equal sign, we're going to fill in the circle. And we're looking for numbers that are greater than 3, which is to the right. So we're going to point to the right. Okay, and our last problem. I picked this one because it's slightly different. Okay. So now here we have p plus 21 over 3. We want to get rid of this 3 from the denominator. Remember again that fraction bar represents division. The opposite of division is multiplication. We are going to multiply both sides by 3, and this will cancel this denominator. Okay, because 3 over 3 is 1. So p plus 21 is greater than 24, greater than or equal to 24, because 8 times 3 is 24. And we're going to subtract 21 from both sides. And we get that p is greater than or equal to 3. So p is greater than or equal to 3. That looks exactly the same as the inequality above. Okay, so again, we have greater than or equal to, which means 3 is included. So we're going to use a full circle, filled in circle. And we're looking for numbers that are greater than 3, which are to the right. Okay, and there you have it. I hope this helps. And good luck.